Good morning, everybody. This is day 4 of Unlocking Potential, and we are going to talk about the future. We are going to talk about the future of accessibility. But before we get into the future of accessibility, does anybody have anything that's top of mind from the past 3 days? Anybody have anything that you have a burning desire to share or talk about?
Even act selectively.
Well, Angela, I'll jump in. You have you and Dan have really raised our awareness to the power of accessibility and what it means. And there's so many accessibilities all around us. And I want to thank you and appreciate you that we're now, as a world, more accessible because you've done this challenge. So thank you. The ripple effect, we are confident, is very, very, very powerful. So thank you very much.
Well, absolutely. Thank you. And Kathleen, you've been a rock star through this whole thing. If you're a coach who needs a coach, Kathleen's your girl. She'll guide you through everything and make sure you don't fall off any cliffs along the way like I was about to. Um, all right. Anybody else? And if not, we will dive into today's program because it is going to be a doozy. We got a lot to cover today. Believe it or not, we thought today was going to be Friday. Not so much.
Yeah, you've got some excellent content that you and Daniel want to share. And Laura, any questions from you or Matthew or insights? Feel free to unmute and just jump right in. So, Angela, how about, let's see, you had some points you wanted to cover today. Would you like me to
do
show the PowerPoint and then come on back to you?
Absolutely. Go ahead and show that
Thank
PowerPoint
you.
and we will
great.
launch into this thing. Excuse Jaws, he had no manners. So, what does the future landscape of accessibility look like? I mean, things are uncertain. We're in an election year. Nobody knows what's going on in an election year. Everybody's uncertain, but the future of accessibility is not uncertain. Accessibility is going to become increasingly important as the years go on, more important than it is now. And there are several reasons behind that. And Dan, a couple of reasons have to do with the law, right? And legal trends.
Absolutely. And I'm going to even make a side note here and say that because accessibility is an issue that transcends party politics, it transcends every demographic, I feel comfortable making a certain forecast regardless of this year's election results, 2028's election results, etc., because there's a very clear couple of trends. So I wanted to highlight a couple of reasons legally why I think we're just at the beginning of what could be an accessibility renaissance. And the first is that the haphazard application of the Americans with Disabilities Act, where it comes to virtual environments, is starting to really lose ground legally. We've seen that over the last few years in some pretty important cases, but more fundamentally, the underlying doctrine that a website may or may not be a place of a public accommodation, a mobile app may or may not be a place of public accommodation, that's starting to lose traction. And honestly, it's becoming untenable because in our lives in 2024 and beyond, so much of the commerce, so much of the work, so much of the daily life that we experience is virtual. And so to say that only physical spaces are covered by the ADA by virtue of them being the only public accommodations is really not going to be a colorable argument going forward, in my view. The second is that we're starting to see trends, even with things such as cookie and privacy policy, where it's not about where the business is based, it's about where the customer is based. Where when those laws kick in or those protections kick in. So you'll see certain policies that pop up. If you're a California resident, click here. If you're a Washington resident, click here. I've learned even recently that in Texas, there are certain protections coming into place. What that means is, again, if you are a business who serves a nationwide customer base, you can't just count on saying, well, my business is based in a region of the country that has pretty strict or or underdeveloped accessibility laws, and count on that. We're getting to the point where if you serve customers in California or Washington or other places, it's going to become a more pressing concern, even if you live in a place such as Florida, where the accessibility laws have been pretty narrow. So those are some pretty clear trends going forward. And it's not the reason that we recommend that people investigate accessibility per se, because again, that goes back to compliance. But I think it is useful to look at that competitively and say, if we can position ourselves now to be ahead of the curve and get our house in order before everybody is forced to be compliant, then we can do it right. We can do it efficiently and effectively, and we can do it from a user design standpoint, as opposed to rushing trying to adapt to new laws.
And when you're not facing a legal, I'm going to use the word crisis, you can be more deliberate. You can start with harm reduction. You can phase things out in a way that makes sense for your budget and still get everything done. And Dan was talking about different states and different customers. And I don't mind making fun of my home state. I do it all the time. We Californians regulate ourselves to the point of absurdity, right? But we're also one of the largest economies out there. We've got a bigger economy than several of the other large states combined. I can't remember the statistics, but it's pretty startling. So as annoying as it can be to follow California regulations, there's also a pretty irrefutable business case for doing so. So I'm going to move away from the law, and I'm going to get into the business case reasons, because these reasons transcend politics, they transcend regulations. These are trends that are going on in society. And the first is that people are becoming more socially conscious in an authentic way, by which I mean people are becoming genuinely aware of not only the needs of people with disabilities, but the capabilities of people with disabilities. So it's becoming more important for people to support accessible businesses, to work to make their own businesses accessible. People with disabilities are becoming more visible, getting out there more, and with things moving online, it's a lot easier for some people to do so. Thus, the employment rate of people with disabilities is going to increase as we get out there, as transportation barriers are broken, because more jobs are going virtual. More people with disabilities are going to be hired, and as we prove our capabilities, more people with disabilities are going to be promoted. We can say a lot of things about COVID, right? And very few of them are nice, but one thing that COVID did do is it brought virtual employment to the forefront. And we now know that we can run a company remotely and not lose productivity. And so we can offer more flexible working hours. We can offer, we can let people use their own equipment so that we don't have to worry about, oh, our computer is going to have the right accessibility features. It really is a more barrier-free experience. And also the population is aging. We're getting older, and as we get older, incidents of disability are going to increase. I hope we all live long enough to have a disability, because if we live long enough, we're going to, and that's just that's just what Father Time does. So accessibility is important now. It's going to become more important. So the call to action here, get ahead of the curve. This is an opportunity for you to get ahead of your competition and to ultimately have something that your competition does not. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the Accessibility Basics boot camp coming up here, because there's a lot of exciting things. We've packaged a lot of exciting things in with that boot camp. But before I do that, I just want to throw things open to questions.
Meeting type selected.
So Angela,
John?
your 4 points are so impactful, because all of those really are relevant for people individually, in companies, in organizations, associations, in the government sector, in education, and everywhere. And I'm just curious, where do you think the bigger opportunity is? The biggest opportunity, because you talked about the future. Where do you think the biggest opportunity for people to make an impact in accessibility? Where do you see the biggest opportunity? This was off the cuff, Angela. Putting you on the spot.
You are putting me on
dear.
the spot, and it really depends on where you are. Go hit the ball where it's pitched. I'm just full of sports analogy today, aren't I?
Yes.
But hit the ball where it's pitched. If you're working for a large company, you can influence that company starting with your own department. If you are working as a developer, you can just start creating accessible code. If you're working as a designer, just start incorporating accessibility into your designs. If you're working as an HR professional, you are in a prime spot to smooth the way for the hiring of people with disabilities. And if you're a small business owner, if you're an entrepreneur, you can make your company accessible, and you can get ahead of the competition by so doing.
I'm going to chime in.
Yeah,
Sorry.
excellent.
Sure, go ahead.
Just adding to that, a couple of stats that I think paint a very vivid picture here. We've been hearing ever since COVID how difficult it is for businesses to find qualified employees, and even more so to retain them. And yet we have an unemployment rate among the disabled community that is at least twice that of our non-disabled peers, despite the fact that, statistically speaking, most people with disabilities are perfectly capable of having a job and performing well. So at some point, those two realities are going to merge. And going back to one of those points on that slide, when that happens, when you have, again, what is the world's largest minority, at least 27% of the population, having that kind of influx in spending power beyond what is already there, it is going to make a rather drastic difference in the economy and when you have people with disabilities living their authentic, lives within your company and not being afraid to disclose, then they are the ones who can be your accessibility champions within that company and can help make sure that your customer experience is authentic, robust, precise, right on point, far more than any other outside consultant can.
Amen. Amen. Who better? And these hiring statistics that Dan mentioned are born of an understanding gap. It's like we've been talking about all week. People don't know because society focuses on limitations. I don't know why we do this. We all do this. Society focuses on what can't be done and what appears to be a weakness, which really causes an understanding gap between people with disabilities and people without disabilities, right? So if we focus on strengths, and we're going to talk a lot about hiring in the coming months, just a little teaser there. But I will say this, if we focus on strengths and minimize weaknesses, then we'll see how truly capable we all are.
Such an excellent point, Angela. And in today's world, don't we need everyone all in? Keeping all into the game, keeping the analogy of sports going. And we need all the players playing in the game on the field, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
I might not be able to be a truck driver, going back to our humorous talk from yesterday, but that doesn't matter because there are so many other things that I can do. I can help plan routes. I can work in sales. There are so many jobs that I can do for that trucking company that have absolutely nothing to do with getting behind the wheel of a big rig. So don't worry, guys. I'll stay off the road, but
That's it.
Capability does not, we have to look at we have to look at capabilities.
Yeah. Yeah. And Angela, this is kind of throwing you and Daniel a curveball here.
She's bringing the knuckleball, Dan.
Yeah. So I'm curious also, what are the top reasons that organizations, companies, associations, businesses, whomever don't want to make the leap? Because I think we've got an opportunity to overcome those those objections, those things. What are you seeing? What are the reasons to stay stuck?
Dan, you did a bunch of research on this very topic, didn't you?
I did, and there's fortunately the Department of Labor has done a lot of this research as well, and every bit of it boils down to one word: fear. And it's fear of expense, it's fear of being inclusive equating to lowering standards, it's fear of the burdens being too hard. Ironically enough, it's fear of getting sued because people have started to make the effort and don't complete it. And without going too deep into it, I can simply say the research very clearly points toward those fears being understandable but unfounded. And what I mean is that while we understand, given the current cultural climate, how these fears arise, it's not anyone's fault. They're unfounded because the research is just convincingly pointing in the opposite direction.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've all got an education project to do as well, to continue to educate not only on the opportunity, but also the things that you brought up, Daniel, as well as you, Angela, is the reasons to do it, and that objections and obstacles, can be overcome.
And Real Life Access is going to come out with a Hiring for Champions course. It's going to take a little while to put together because there's going to be some video content involved and a number of different things, but it will come out, and we just might put together a program once it does. You just never know what we're going to come up with. But the program I want to talk to you guys about today is the Accessibility Basics Bootcamp, because that's going to be starting next month. And you get group coaching. You get access to my Accessibility Basics course, but you also get a bunch of other goodies that I'm not sure that that I've mentioned. And I did mention this. The first thing is a free one-on-one consulting session. So you can sit down with me or Dan, depending on the nature of your questions, and you can ask all the questions that maybe you didn't want to ask in the group session. Maybe they're so specific to your company that they don't, it's not, you don't want to ask them. But we could really take a deep dive into your unique situation. It's a very personalized service. So the second benefit you get is the reasonable accommodations decision matrix. So it's a sheet that you would look at if somebody comes in asking for a reasonable accommodation, and it's based on Dan's talk yesterday. And you can look at this sheet and you can decide pretty quickly whether you want to, whether you're able to or should offer this reasonable accommodation or not. The third benefit is what we call our top 5 questions to ask toolkit. So, we talked about third-party companies. We talked about web developers. We talked about legal consultants or attorneys. But how do you know whether the person that you're hiring or thinking about hiring is the right person for you? And we're going to give you some questions that you can ask to help you make that decision. So the fourth thing that you're going to get is a resource list of accessibility professionals. Now, these aren't, these are people that do specific things that Real Life Access doesn't do. So, for example, if you need a Braille signs made, if you need, I'm trying to think of examples, but these are companies and individuals that we've vetted that you can hire to do specific things to make your company more accessible. And last but certainly not least, you get the opportunity to create your own meaningful accessibility statement. We're going to show you how to do that, and that's going to be your homework for the digital accessibility portion of the group coaching. And you're going to be able to get feedback from us. You're going to get feedback from the group. And this accessibility statement is going to do 2 things. It's going to give people customers and employees with disabilities the opportunity to give you really valuable accessibility feedback. It's going to give them a way to do that. And it's going to reassure them that their feedback is actually going to go somewhere. And the second thing it's going to do is it's going to provide a layer. Dan, I'm being careful here. It's going to provide a layer of protection against potential lawsuits. Because in a lot of cases, people are looking for one of 2 things, right? They're looking for righteous cases, or they're looking for easy wins. And a reasonable attorney is more than likely going to look at that accessibility statement and hesitate to take further action. Dan, am I saying that right?
Dan, your
Sorry,
microphone is off.
I'm going to assume that silence gives consent.
No, yeah. Sorry, I had to. My iPad's not playing nice today. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
correct. And also, again, not only with the accessibility statement, but with the other protocols we can show you to put in place. If somebody can be heard regarding their accessibility complaints, regarding their concerns, if there's an easy mechanism for them to be heard, i.e., if you have an accessibility concern, please email us here. There is so much less friction in that
Yep.
process than there is in finding a lawyer. It's not 100%, but it's really, really close. Saying, look, if they can email you and hash it out as humans, the odds of somebody choosing to find a lawyer instead of doing that, again, as long as you're responsive, as long as you're communicative, all of those things, the odds of somebody choosing a lawyer instead of that are really slim.
Yep. So the group coaching cohort is going to start sometime after Labor Day. My hope is to start it the first week after Labor Day, but that, that could change. We're flexible around here. It's going to run for 4 weeks. And the cost is actually for what you get. It is if I do say so myself, it's a really good deal. The cost, if you sign up before the end of next week, is $7.97. At the end of next week, or we might extend it, we might not, I don't know, but eventually the price is going to go up to $11.97. So it pays to sign up early, but right now it's $7.97, which is a really good deal. I might not give you that good deal again. I don't know. I might charge more next time. So now's the time to jump on that. So that's it, guys. Get ahead of the curve. We can do this. Let's get ahead of the competition. Let's make our organizations accessible.
Meeting tab selected.
Thank you, Jaws. He agrees with me. Anybody have any questions before we let y'all go?
And Angela, I put the link in the chat, and folks can reach you through your email or reach out through a DM on LinkedIn, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah, very
and
good.
you can actually link to both the boot camp from the homepage now. I got it up it's in the menu. So you can go to our homepage, link to that. I've also got all of my accessibility courses listed on the homepage instead of just 3. So that was my project this morning. So yeah, go to www.reallifeaccess.com and you can get what you need there, get signed up. I've also got a newsletter subscription thing. You can sign up for my newsletter. So www.reallifeaccess.com is the place to be on a Friday night.
Great. So Angela, thank you to you and to Daniel Hodges. What an incredible challenge you've had. You've been challenged us through the entire week. We so appreciate you, and thank you for all of the excellent content, new insights, new awarenesses, and thank you for bringing real life access to the world.
Well, thank you guys for coming. If you were there for 1 day, 3 days, all 4 days, thank you very much for coming. Those of you watching on the replay, thank you. If you've stuck it out through the whole thing, thank you very much. The replays will be up for the next week or so. They'll be up on the website. They'll be all over LinkedIn. So they'll be accessible as well. So thank you all for coming. I'm going to give you one last opportunity to jump in with any questions you might have. And if you don't have any questions, we will call it a Friday.
Well, thank you, Angela. I know folks will reach out to you one-on-one, and with that, great job. And it's been a really super week. Thanks for everything you've done, Angela, to make this a really great challenge. And also thanks to Daniel as well. Daniel Hodges, thank you.
Well, thanks to Kathleen for keeping everybody keeping us focused, and to all of your wisdom and guidance throughout this. To Dan for being the legal voice and the statistics. Dan remembers statistics. I don't remember statistics. I remember general trends, but Dan's the stats guy. So basically, thank you for doing everything that I'm not good at.
Well, it's a pleasure to work with both of you, and yeah, I look forward to connecting with everyone who, moving forward.
All right,
Thanks.
guys.
And onward and upward, right?
Onward and upward, folks. And that concludes Unlocking Potential.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye for now.
Bye-bye, everybody.